Okay, next, detecting any of these intrusions. So detect tools are the reinforcement to those protect tools. So the encryption, firewalls. Because cyber attackers will attempt to exploit any vulnerability they can. Like I said, a lot of them are pretty lazy. If your system is easy to get into, that's the one they're going to choose. You know, I've run a password cracking software. If I can crack your password in 5 or 10 minutes, easy. The ones that take a couple hours, I'm not going to wait to see if I can crack it. I'm just going to move on to the next person. So you want to monitor. So the way that you know that your firewall is working, here's an easy way, is to know what the transactions are going through your email or over the internet on your website. If it looks funny, if there's something new that was added that you did not add, somebody hacked into your system. If you see that, and this has happened, if you see that there's another website that looks just like yours, using the same logo as you, that you did, but that's not yours, guess what? They did an identity theft on your company. So you want to go out there periodically and make sure that you are the only one with the website for your company. So intrusion detective systems are security products that gather and analyze information from various areas within your computer or a network. You can have network behavior anomaly detection tools. A lot of banks use this. And they have the firewalls, they have antivirus software, they have spyware detection tools. All of this you can buy. I'm not saying that you should buy them. I'm just saying that these are all available. They have security information event management systems. And these are tools to manage logs or alerts from multiple security applications. And they can be done in real time or on the overnight run. And if you have one of those and it spits out a log for you, just because it spits out a log is not going to help you if there was an intrusion. You got to look at the log and figure out what it's trying to tell you. There's this thing called a configuration management tool. It's predominantly used as a compliance configuration tool, just to make sure that you have downloaded all of the software updates. You know how software gets updated all the time. You want to make sure that you updated all of the patches that they send out. So those are some of the things that you can do. Okay, so let me share with you some detect examples. These are some common cyber attacks that bank CEOs kind of particularly should know about. So the one that is the most popular is what's called the DDoS attacks. I had to write this down, the distributed denial of service attacks. And what that is, why I say that that's the most common, is this type of attack attempts to make an online service unavailable by overwhelming the website. So if you take applications online, they will just flood it to take your website down. In the latter half of 2012, an increase in the number of DDoS attacks were launched against financial institutions, meaning banks, by politically motivated groups. And so it's spread since then, and they've increased in sophistication and intensity. Now they are accessing public websites to try to get to your back office operations. So unfortunately, like I said, the way that you know that you've been attacked is your website goes down. Okay, so here's another way, or another detect example, corporate account takeover. This is where a business entity or business identity theft, this is what we call business identity theft, where the cyber thieves impersonate the business and send unauthorized transaction accounts to places controlled by the thieves. So they went in and they just mirrored your website, and people who are applying for loans that they thought was at your website are now sending all of that information to thieves. And then they also take information from your website and either try to get to your company's bank accounts, and that's really what they're trying to do, to drain your account. The third way, the crypto locker attacks. So this is one of the newer ways that thieves are getting to information. So this is that ransomware thing. They go on there, they lock your computer and say that if you pay the ransom, they will unlock your computer. So this started in 2013, and it's now getting more and more sophisticated, as you might imagine. And even if you pay the ransom, it does not guarantee that the thieves will unlock your computer. Because sometimes they don't know how to unlock it. But they know how to lock it, get the ransom, and then leave. And of course, you can't find them. All right. Okay, so let's say that you had an attack. What should you do? Respond. So cybersecurity data breaches are now, as I think about it, a part of your daily life. So the way I describe this is, are you a company that has been breached and you know it? Or are you a company that has been breached and you don't know it? You kind of want to be in the first category. Okay, so the incident response plan. You should think about how it is that you're going to address this if it happens to you. You have to figure out whether or not you need evidence. You want to figure out how the service availability was affected. Is it a network connectivity or services that were provided to a third party? Which part of your system was breached? Before it happens also, you want to kind of think about how much time and resources you're going to need to implement your response. And whether or not your response is going to fully or partially contain the incident. And how long you think this solution is going to take. So let's say Target as an example. Remember the Target breach? So, their response was, well, they had to tell all of their customers somehow that their network was hacked. And a lot of states have laws that say that you got to notify the people affected within a certain period of time. So the best way to do that, of course, is through the media, which is why they launched that huge media campaign, or through the news. What else did they have to do? They offered everyone who was affected 12-month credit review, right? So that cost them money. For each customer that came in, they paid for the 12-month credit review for them. So that's something you might want to think about. And just so you know, Hawaii has a very similar law where you must inform the consumers that are affected. I can't remember what the time frame is, but soon after you discovered that there has been a breach of their personal information. Okay, so you're gonna have to communicate this somehow. How are you gonna do this? Are you gonna try to contact all your customers by calling them? You might not want to email them because that's the part that got intruded. And how are they going to know that that email is really from you or from a thief? So you're going to have to, be a little bit creative about how it is that you're going to do that. And then you want to track and analyze the data about what was stolen. And you don't have to do this by yourself. So on Oahu, the Honolulu Police Department has a white-collar crimes task force. I think that's what they're called. It's white-collar anyway. And they will help you, or at least point you in the right direction so that you can get the help that you need. Okay, so you want to ask for the white-collar crime area. Okay, and then the last one is recover. You want to restore and review. So your recovery plan should have a step-by-step plan for rebuilding the servers, databases, network devices that may have been compromised. And then you want to restore to the baseline configuration. So what that means is if you use a backup system, you go to the last backup day that you know wasn't, that didn't have the virus or didn't have the malware, and then you restore to that day. It might be the day before, it might be the week before, it might be a month before. So you're gonna lose some data, and hopefully you won't lose too much data. Restore data. If the integrity of the data was impacted, or the content deleted, like the ransomware, hopefully you have a place, or you have a plan in place to restore that, some sort of backup system. And then reconnect. So the reconnect service, it might take several weeks to get this plan in place. So your website might be down for a little bit, and you want to have on your real website that you're having some technical difficulties, or you don't have to say that you were hacked or that you were a victim of identity theft. You just want to say that your system is down. Okay, questions about identity or cybersecurity? Yes.
Recently there was a cyber attack on the Office of Personnel Management of the federal government.
Yes.
Capitalized 4 million files.
Yes.
With all the internal data on those individuals.
Right.
Because those were security clearances submitted. And this is kind of a real privacy versus security versus how do you know if you're actually dealing with the right actual person who's doing it. Is there any, and I realize, let's say Joe Jones, and there's so many politicians who are in Hawaii who were in the federal payroll, who were impacted. So if that person is subject to that, is there any way that we can know, or is that an invasion of privacy? And if we don't know, how do we know?
I don't know if anybody, I don't know if you would know whether or not,
I understand that, but
yeah.
don't you think we should, from a regulatory standpoint?
I don't really know how OIM, the federal government, is going to be responding to that. I know that they're still trying to they're still in that detect mode, where they're trying to figure out what exactly was taken, how much of it was taken. Was it only of current employees? Was it on former employees? If it was on former employees, how far back did they go? We don't know yet. I think that they don't know yet either.
Well,
Right. Yeah, I'm not really sure how you would protect yourself, because you don't know how, over 4 million pieces of data was stolen. Yeah. So you don't really know for sure. Just like in one of the states, hackers got into the tax department's records. Not our state, another state. And hopefully if you were from that state, you were contacted. But, that happens. At DCCA, I'm proud to say that we have several layers of firewall. We are very concerned about keeping data very safe. Since I've been the commissioner, we have tightened that up. We've strengthened the encryption, the number of firewalls, antivirus, malware. We bought all that stuff. So stuff that you send us, hopefully the hackers will give up because it will be hard to get to. But we'll see. Only time will tell because these schemes are so sophisticated. Yes?
I guess I'm looking for a best practices sort of way. As a small practitioner, my biggest exposure, I think, is people sending me the information. And I kind of wondered, what's the best way for me to receive it? Is it like to take a Dropbox account that, I have password protected, have them send it, post it there? Have you seen something you like that you think is effective for someone in my situation to receive information?
Mm-hmm. So generally what we've been telling folks is that if, you talk to your customers before they start sending you stuff, emphasize that you want it to come at least password protected to you, and they can send it through email. And don't send the password with the document. That's kind of key. Consumers sometimes forget that. They need to send you 2 emails, one with the document that's password protected, and a second one with the password. And don't have the subject of the password or of the second email say password, because I've seen that too. It's like, no, just say additional information or something.
I find most of my applicants are challenged even to that point.
Right.
So is there some way I can do that to where they can be more passive? I mean, to where I have a destination.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm looking for a destination, they can go on the web and put it there without using an email, basically.
Yeah, so there are different services that you can buy to do that. So I don't know if any of you have been examined by us, but we at DFI have this system in the cloud where we have a secured way now. If we ask for information during an exam from you or in one of our investigations of you, we can open up that portal for you. You can send your information through there without it being encrypted, because once you send it through there, it's going to encrypt it. It's going to send it to us, and then when we get it, it'll be unencrypted. But during that pass-through from your email to us, to our email, it will be encrypted. And only you or the person you designate, because it will be to a person specific, can access that. And then once we get the information, we're going to close up that portal.
Is that a service that I could realistically use?
Yeah, you
for
could.
purposes?
Yeah, you could. I mean, the one that we bought was pretty expensive, just because I wanted that extra security. But there are other services that that you could use. Some states are using the Google Docs service. There's a Mac version to that you could also use. So there are different tools that you can use that are not as expensive, or you can buy an expensive system. There was another question? Yes.
Yeah, so just in the event there is an incident,
Mhm.
you said that the state needs to be notified. Is there a timeline for that kind of notification and for notifying the client?
Yeah, so the statute says that you need to notify us when you detect that intrusion. So it could be months before you've detected that intrusion. But when you detect it, that's when you have to notify us and your customers. And when you do that notification to us and your customers, you want to know approximately how long the intrusion might have been going on. Any other questions? As I said, this is a pretty hot topic for the regulators. I'm trying to bring this to your attention so you know what all the hot topics from the regulators' point of view are. We want to make sure that you folks are protected, or at least have some tools available, or at least have thought about what it is that you should be doing. Any other questions? Cybersecurity? It's not going to go away, so don't be an ostrich. Okay. All right. So the topic that I think everybody's most interested in here are the exam hot topics. So we're just going to cover a few kind of the common violations that we've seen through our exams. Virtual offices, BSA, we'll talk about BSA again, the Bank Secrecy Act and Anti-Money Laundering, and office hours. What exactly do we mean by office hours? Okay, so the first topic, virtual offices. So I think it's pretty simple. Our Hawaii SAFE Act requires a physical office. So everyone who has a virtual office, you are not in compliance with our state law. And the way you must be trying to figure out, how do we know this? So customers tell us, I went to so-and-so's office, I went to the address on the NMLS website for, MLOA, and it was an air conditioning store. And, a lot of people have smartphones, they take pictures of the air conditioning store and say, this is the address. And they match it up, they take a picture of, the NMLS address. We contact the MLO to figure out, is that where your office is? I mean, maybe they were sharing offices with their air conditioning store. Likely not. Or, this is a typical one. They use one of these offices where, everyone has the same address, and there are 3 or 4 of these buildings that we know of. We go there, we want to see all of the people to see if they have their own little office space that's lockable, or are they just using that main office as a place to receive mail. That's a virtual office too. Again, just so you know, we've made friends with all of those office managers. They will sometimes let us know when people rent space that's not a real space, because they also know that they could be liable for doing that. So they don't want to get into trouble. Okay, so if you don't have a physical office, you are in violation. You could share an office, with someone else. We have a lot of MLOs that are sharing offices, but as long as there's a designated signage where you are to say that this is your desk, this is where you operate, that's okay. Questions on the first virtual office? Okay, that one, yes.
Is a residence a acceptable office?
A residence is an acceptable office. As long as you know that that address is going to be on NMLS and customers can come to that address. Okay. All right, next topic, BSA, the Bank Secrecy Act. So we have a lot of questions about this. On our website, I still have last year's presentation. I still have you can find a sample BSA policy. You can find a sample risk assessment. And that's really all you need. You don't need the 200-page policy and procedures manual. You don't need, especially when you're borrowing it from your lender who has deposit accounts, who has savings accounts, investment accounts. Yeah, no. You just need something very simple for your operation. Okay, internal controls. And this is to ensure compliance, right? So you need a policy. And I'm not sure if the sample policy that I have up on our website includes a statement that you check the OFAC list during your credit checks, but if that's something that you bought as part of your credit check service, be sure to include that statement on your policy. Procedures. This is, you write down what exactly you do to monitor compliance. You ask for ID during the application process, you ask for social security number, you ask for their address, you ask for where they work. You ask for all of those things as they're filling out the application. And then you run the credit check. And if it comes back looking like the same person that filled out the application, well, you can be pretty much assured that that's the same person, right? If it comes back, and this happens a lot for junior, senior, first, second, thirds, those type of surnames, you might not get the same person. So you want to make sure that that your client is the one that you think that they are. And then you want to do a risk assessment. As I said, simple is best. You want to customize that to your business. So what kind of products do you offer? What kind of customers do you have? And by that I mean, are they citizens or are they foreigners? If they're foreigners, you got to do something else to make sure that that you can identify who they are through their ID. Are they professional service providers? Are they attorneys, accountants, doctors, real estate brokers? Someone who is in business for themselves, typically. Are they a cash-intensive business owner? Do they own a restaurant? Do they own, a small business, like one of those mom-and-pop convenience stores? Is that the type of business that they're in? Where is this customer business located? Is it here in Oahu? Is it on the neighbor islands? Is it on the mainland U.S.? Where is this business that you're going to be, that the customer works at? You might want to figure out where your customer lives. Do they also live in another area that's a high-intensive drug trafficking area? That's where we live. Do they live in an area that's also the high-traffic crime area? That's not us. But they could live in an area that's both. Do you file the Form 8300 on your customer? Do y'all know what that is? Form 8300? That's if they bring you cash of over $10,000. Do you file a report that says that they brought you cash of over $10,000? And what did you do with that cash? Does your customer name match a name on the OFAC list? And that one is a little bit tricky. So if you're using the credit report service to match the OFAC, that's probably the easiest bet to do, the easiest way to do that. If you're going to match it yourself, make sure that you don't put the entire first name or the entire last name into the OFAC list, because when this first started and I tried to look for Saddam Hussein, I spelled Saddam Hussein like I thought it should be spelled. Well, lo and behold, OFAC, those guys spell it a different way. When I put in only part of the name, I did find it. So you kind of have to spell it the way that OFAC spells it. Okay, and then you score your risk assessment. Okay, next topic, independent testing for your BSA program. Must be done by a qualified party, must be independent, like it can't be you. If you're the BSA officer, you cannot do an independent audit on yourself. Should be conducted every 12 to 18 or 24 months, depending on what your risk profile is. It can be risk-based process, and then you do a little report. Okay, so what are we talking about here? It doesn't have to cost you too much money. So if you're in a two-person firm, let's say you are the BSA officer, have your colleague do the audit. If you're a one-person firm, what we've seen is that some people have gotten together and they do kind of the round robin. I check yours, you check mine. Doesn't cost too much money. In fact, I think they do it over coffee. So somebody buys coffee and then they do a round robin of checking the BSA policy for each other. And that's your independent review. So it doesn't have to be expensive. If you bought a policy from a third-party vendor, that third-party vendor cannot do the independent audit because they're checking themselves. You can't do that. Okay, and then in case you want to know what that independent test looks like, it could be based on what we do in our exams. So I know you're all curious. Where can you find this? You can go to the CSBS website. It's csbs.org. And look on the regulatory page for mortgage loan originators. And there you will find our exam book. Okay, so that was biggest hint. You want that address again? CSBS. It's the Conference of State Bank Supervisors, which we are a member. Okay, and not a secret, we put up our exam manual there. Okay, BSA officer. That person should be qualified, should have sufficient authority, knowledge, and resources. And that person is responsible for ensuring the overall BSA compliance. So must be qualified. You got to go to some sort of training. It could be online training. But if you do online training, be sure that it's customized to what it is that you do. So if you take the lender BSA training, they do a lot more than what you have to do. You have to understand the requirements of the reporting. You have to be able to train your employees on what you know and what they need to know. And then you got to keep your company in compliance with the laws as they are constantly changing. Okay, so that's the BSA officer. So BSA officer, I'm not sure, I didn't check this, but I know in the banking industry, the BSA officer can actually serve jail time or prison time for serious violations. So if you think if you like the show Orange is the New Black and you want to real-time participate, you may have an opportunity if you are the BSA officer who wants to skirt the law. Okay, training. So your training program must be documented. So, when we go to your company and we're doing our exam and we ask, did you do any training? They go, yeah, we did some online training. Okay, so do you have did you download the materials or did you know, what sort of proof did you have that you actually sat through the training? A lot of times people are smiling back at us. I'm like, okay. So if you can't prove that you did the training, you didn't do the training. You need some way to validate that you did the training. You know, a lot of people will download the slides, so we know that you've actually seen it. You want to make sure that the training is tailored to the specific job duties. So, you know, you might have one BSA training for your mortgage loan originators who's taking out the application and what they need to do. You might have a separate training for your processors because they're not interacting with the customer, but they should be looking for other suspicious activity on the application as they're processing it. If you have underwriters, if you do lending, the underwriters should also be looking for some sort of suspicious activity on the part of your customer. So all of those people are doing different jobs, and that's the type of training that they need. They need to be able to detect if anything is amiss. You also need to train on your policy and procedures. So it's not just good enough to have that policy, that piece of paper that you whip out during the examination, go, yeah, I have this policy. Okay, did you read it? No. Because we